So, it looks like Jimmie Johnson is finally going to be driving in IndyCar here very soon. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Before we get into that big news, we got a few NASCAR stories we do need to discuss here today. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. So, the first thing, we have our next driver announcement for the XRX. Mark Webber becomes the 7th member of the XRX. So for those who don't know, Mark Webber used to race in F1 for a very long time, racing Formula 1 from 2002 to 2013, if I'm not mistaken, and was able to score 9 victories throughout that time. He actually ended up retiring from racing in 2016, but he is coming back to drive in the SRX. I don't know if he has had experience before driving short track cars in the past, but Mark Webber is a great addition to the SRX. And we got a lot of awesome drivers. Some drivers that I did not expect to be driving in the SRX, like Mark Webber, like Willie T. Rivers. I'm just happy we got more awesome drivers. And I'm very intrigued to see what other drivers we're going to be ending up seeing in the SRX. Maybe Jimmie Johnson comes and runs the SRX next year. That is a very big possibility. But I'm very intrigued to see what other drivers we do end up getting in the XRX. Now we get into the next story. Matt Kenseth was on an episode, I can't remember what the show was on Sirius XM's NASCAR radio, but he was on an episode with Brad Gilly and Brad Doherty. And Matt Kenseth said this quote, he said, he most likely is not going to be returning to Chip Ganassi Racing or NASCAR in 2021. And it's really no surprise at this point that he's not interested in coming back to NASCAR at all. He's had a very, very frustrating year. He's only had a few races this year where he has been really competitive up to this point. He was really fast at Indy, almost won that race, and was somewhat competitive at Pocono, and it looked like he had a decent run going at Bristol. But other than that, really, Matt Kenseth has had a very frustrating 2020, and it really is no surprise. Matt, I think, is one of those drivers that has been affected by the fact that there has been no practice, and honestly, it's no surprise. I think Matt, I wish he would do a little bit better, but again, he would had at this point not race with the current car or the current package. You know, the last time we raced was 2018 where we ran the 750, well, yeah, I think, yeah, 750 horsepower package. We're not currently running that at the moment at some of these tracks, and I think Matt's struggling because of that. On top of that, I don't think the cars are set up toward what Matt wants. Matt's not as aggressive as a driver like Kyle Larson, so I think Matt, and like I said, he's enjoyed being back racing, and he's happy that he doesn't have to be there 3 times a week. He said he was getting really tired of that, which I didn't find out in Matt, but that was very interesting here. But I think Matt Kenseth is no surprise that he doesn't want to come back to NASCAR, and I wish him Matt the best of luck whatever he does. Maybe he'll run long-term in the future, but I just don't see, I'm not surprised Matt doesn't want to come back. And the question now is, who's going to take over the 42 car next year if Matt most likely not returning next year? Honestly, I think it's probably going to either be Bubba or Ross Chastain. I'm still leaning a lot toward Ross Chastain, but those rumors have been kind of going out the window because he might be going over to Spire. But I still think Ross Chastain is most likely to end up in the 42. But I'm wishing Matt the best of luck wherever he ends up going because, again, I'm not surprised that he probably won't be returning next year. On to the next story. The Southern 500 TV ratings did come out. This is according to Toby Christie. The Southern 500 scored a 1.4 rating and 2.4 million viewers. This is up from last year's race, which had a 1.3 rating and 2.1 million viewers, but it had a weather delay. And keep this in mind, both these races were last year on NBC SM. First of all, I think I understand why it was on NBSN because of the Stanley Cup playoffs, but in my opinion, I really think that any marquee event like the Southern 500, like Daytona 500, all those crown jewel races, they need to be on the regular NBC network. I don't understand why they did not put this on the regular NBC network. I think it's, once again, of course, because of the Stanley Cup playoffs that were going on. There's no NFL games going on until tomorrow, I believe. The NFL actually kicks off tomorrow, which I'm really excited for that coming back. But yeah, the ratings, I don't know if this is a winner or loss. They are up from last year, but last year was affected by a weather delay. I mean, for this being on a cable network, that is not that bad considering, like I said, it was on a cable network. But I just wish ratings were up a little bit more. But again, being on a cable network, that does kind of affect the ratings. But yeah, that was the ratings for the Southern 500. And now we get into the big story that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. The rumor about Jimmie Johnson going to IndyCar is officially true. Jimmie Johnson is going to be driving for Chip Ganassi's IndyCar team in 2021 and 22. They will be attempting to have the full street and road course schedule for that season. This is really, really awesome to see. Jimmie Johnson is going to be teaming up with Scott Dixon, one of the greatest IndyCar drivers of all time, and right now the best driver in IndyCar at the moment, along with two really awesome younger drivers, Marcus Ericsson and Felix Rosenqvist. Jimmie Johnson is teaming up with a fantastic IndyCar team. You guys don't know how big a deal this really is. Jimmie Johnson joining one of the best teams in IndyCar. I think this is the dream team because like I said, you got Scott Dixon, who's one of the best ever, and two really awesome young drivers. Felix was finally able to break through. Marcus Ericsson has been overachieving in those car series, been doing very, very well in the IndyCar series. But the question is Jimmie Johnson going to come back to NASCAR and run some races in the future? He actually is not ruling that out. He has talked about adding marquee events in NASCAR and sports car races in next year, including the Southern 500, road course races, and super speedway races. That is, of course, his sponsorship does come with him. Now, another question is, would he maybe take the 48 number from Hendrick Motorsports? I personally don't see that happening. I think if he comes back to NASCAR, I think he is going to drive for Chip Ganassi Racing's Cup team, which is a Chevy team, if you think about it. Which is interesting because he's been with Chevy, he's been with Chevy his whole life. And he's going over to Honda, but again, Chip Ganassi is partnered up with Hendrick Motorsports because they have the Hendrick engine, so that kind of makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, Jimmie Johnson is not ruling it out. Of course, if sponsorship does come into play, And I think Jimmie Johnson, I don't think he is going to go out there and win. I think he's going to be pretty competitive. I think he really wants to do this, unlike Fernando Alonso. I think Fernando Alonso did really want to do it, but I think Jimmie Johnson is more interested in running IndyCars. Here's a quote that Jimmie Johnson said here from the press release today. Ganassi was highly motivated to give me a chance to drive a car to see what I thought, and the experience was all that I hoped for and more. He has said to Jennifer Fryer from the Associated Press. I love to get an impression with where they're definitely interest on their side, and now it's time to formalize things and get the ball rolling. I think Jimmie Johnson really has wanted to do this for a long time. He's actually said for the last couple of years that he's been very interested, really since he had the test at Abu Dhabi or Yasmin or wherever track they were at the final race of the year that year in 2018. And he said he was really interested in getting IndyCar. Now, people have been wondering, is there a possibility that Jimmie Johnson could end up running the Indy 500? He hasn't completely rolled it out, but honestly, I'm going to more likely say no. I don't think Jimmie Johnson is going to run the Indy 500 at least for the next year or two. I've heard rumors maybe 2022, 2023, maybe when he might run the Indy 500, if he's even thinking about doing that. But in all honesty, I don't think Jimmie Johnson is going to run the Indy 500. And another question is, if he does come back to NASCAR, is he going to be somewhat competitive? I feel like he will be somewhat competitive. I think Jimmie Johnson is a really awesome driver. I still think if he runs NASCAR, I think he's going to do really, really awesome in those races that he does run. He's been actually overall having a better year, even though he's not in the playoffs this year in the Cup Series. And I think that's a big thing, right? Is I don't think Jimmie Johnson was going to make this major announcement if he was, of course, in the playoffs, because he probably want to focus on the playoffs. And this probably wouldn't have gotten announced at the end of the year, but since he's not in the playoffs, this announcement came out today. But I'm just honestly am so happy that Jimmie Johnson is going to run IndyCar. It's good to see that Jimmie Johnson's just not leaving racing completely. I mean, he's not done with racing. He just doesn't want to race, be at a track 3 or 4 times a week. Similar to Matt Kenseth, these weekends are extremely long in NASCAR. And with IndyCar, I don't know how long their weekends are usually. I think they're 2 days usually. But they have some times where they have a couple weeks off where they can, get reset and re-energized and rebuilt. I mean, they only have really technically one doubleheader. I mean, this year's different where they have a couple doubleheaders, but of course that's different due to, the COVID-19 pandemic. They had to make up a lot of races in IndyCar this year. I'm just really happy that he is coming in IndyCar. There was a lot of talks that he was going to go to McLaren because he had tested with McLaren and he was with Zach Brown at a test in Alabama. But when he tested with Chip Ganassi, I'm like, this is a better option, in my opinion. I think McLaren, while they are an up-and-coming team, and that team has definitely improved, you look at their Formula One program, they have drastically improved this year with, Carlos and Lando have been really, well, is Carlos with them? I don't remember. Whoever's at McLaren, regardless. McLaren is going to be a really stout team next year. I mean, you got Daniel Ricciardo over there and Lando Norris are two of the biggest talents over there. And you look at their IndyCar program with Oliver Askew and Pat O'Ward, where those guys are putting in a lot of the work over there. Their young talent is really awesome. Jimmie Johnson can maybe learn from those guys, but Jimmie's going to be able to learn from Scott Dixon, who's going to really be over there to help him and get some experience from these kind of guys who are getting a little bit older, like Felix and Marcus. But I am just really, really happy to see Jimmie Johnson going to be running IndyCar next year. It's great to see that he's not done completely with NASCAR. I mean, people think, oh, he's going to be done with NASCAR. No, that's not the case whatsoever. Jimmie Johnson is still going to be associated with NASCAR. He just doesn't want to be at a track, as many weeks as they are. IndyCar seasons are technically a lot shorter. The seasons are like only 5 or 6 months. The NASCAR seasons are really, really grueling. They're really, really, really long. They're like 8 to 9, like 9 to 10 months long. And there really isn't much time to have an off season. IndyCar has like a 5 or 6 month off season. Yes, of course, they do have the preseason tests at other racetracks, but I think Jimmie Johnson's going to have a lot of fun next year. I think it's going to be really fun to watch what Jimmie Johnson can do. My expectation, of course, I think his goal is just to finish top 10 every week as much as possible. Get as much experience out there for the first year in 2022. Go out there and start competing for a lot more wins. But yeah, that's going to be it, my video for today, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe to the channel, turn notifications so you can be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Link description below for that. And comment your thoughts on today's video. What do you think about Matt Kenseth most likely not returning in 2021? Let me know in the comments below. And what do you think about Jimmie Johnson joining the IndyCar series in 2021? Are you excited about this or not? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.